Welcome on into the Wolverine.com podcast. Clayton Safey here with Chris Ballas and Anthony Broom on Thursday, December 5th. We're coming off of National Signing Day, still a week after Michigan beats Ohio State in Columbus. Eye patch is gone for me. We're doing pretty well here. We also will get into Michigan's offensive coordinator search. We will get into Michigan basketball's big win over Wisconsin. We'll talk and make picks for the Power Four Conference Championship games this weekend, of which, for the first time in a while, we are not a part of, but we will make our picks regardless. Make sure to like the video if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel as well. We're climbing towards 31,000 subscribers. And head to thewolverine.com. Use the promo code UM1 for 2 months of premium access for just $1. We got the transfer portal opening up on Monday. A lot of moves to be made, the offensive coordinator search. So great time to get in over at thewolverine.com. Again, promo code UM1 for 2 months of premium access for just $1. I wanted to start with this. We're 5 days removed from Michigan beating Ohio State. It was a stunning victory. None of us necessarily saw it coming. Anthony, you predicted a close game. I give you credit for that. But now that we're 5 days away, I almost can't envision a world where Michigan didn't win that game. It just feels like it makes more sense that we're living in this world where Michigan beat Ohio State. And Ryan Day's given hour-long press conferences about his mental state and all sorts of things the other day. Crazy.
Yeah, I really feel for the guy. Everything they've put Michigan through and trying to explain away an unbelievable era of Michigan football, they can kiss my ass and flat out. I don't feel sorry for anybody over there. And as a matter of fact, this is karma. In my opinion, the whole narrative has shifted, and I said this in my column. I said you can talk if you want to still talk about snow flurries and flu and cheating and all this crap, then the rest of the country is going to laugh at you even more now, and they are. You still have one clown blogger saying, well, they've really only lost two and only one of those was a bad loss. That was one of the funniest things I've ever heard when it pertaining to this series. So it was absurd, and it was fun to read, though. It was fun to read the other side as much as it was to read what Michigan writers were saying. So God, he just looks uptight there too before the game. It almost looks like he expects to lose, fellas. And by the way, for those listening, we are looking at a picture of Ryan Day right now. So, but this is what you get. And Michigan, this is the John Cooper years all over again for you guys who didn't get to experience this in the 90s. This is what it was like, right? Michigan owns Ohio State. They're in their heads. People can say, well, they play this game too tight. I don't think that was the case the last 3 years. I think Michigan just flat out kicked their ass. This year, I think they played it a little bit tight, and Michigan still was better in the trenches, and they kicked their butt. So, to me, it was beautiful to watch. I will never get over this. And everybody who says, well, it's kind of a boring game to go back and watch, it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in terms of great defense and the stunned crowd and how much fun that was. It was fantastic. So I lost my train of thought there probably and rambled a little bit, but damn it, guys, what a week for Michigan.
No, it was great.
I forget what his exact quote was, but I saw a clip from that press conference on signing day, which, again, it should be for most other schools in the country. It's this exaltation of getting these future fixtures of your program in there that you're super excited. But I think he hit the nail on the head. It was a therapy session for him. And I don't know if he had that captive an audience for it either, like most therapists would typically be. But said that loss shocked him, that they was after the game, he was shocked by what happened. And I think that therein lies what we talked about a couple of days ago with the hubris behind it all. Like, Michigan goes to work. Michigan, puts in the work, puts in a game plan. These guys talk about it and they try to speak it into existence and are super cocky about it and got punched in the mouth and totally tight. Above all things, what his legacy in this game will show is that he truly did pucker up and the moment was too big for him, which normally when you have these games between top ranked teams and these sort of scrappy underdogs, it's a scrappy underdog that eventually you get that deer in the headlights look late and see guys start making mistakes and you see guys doing uncharacteristic things. These things aren't uncharacteristic for Ryan Day at this point. And we're on day 5. 5 days since that game took place in Columbus, and it is not getting old seeing any of the stuff that comes out of it in terms of the trolling, in terms of the memes, in terms of the coping. It's what a great spot to be in. National Signing Day, kind of just the cherry on top of all of it with everything that's gone on. And I keep saying it's like a lightning bolt hit this program during the buy-in week, which is could wind up being one of the more consequential weeks in the modern history of this program moving forward. So I'm excited to see where it goes from there. But hell of a couple weeks, hell of a week this has been, and excited to break it all down.
I do want to say one thing. I incorrectly said that Anthony Broom won staff picks. You cannot win. This is a rule going back to when we started this if you pick the wrong team. So, but we do want to give you credit and a cup of coffee, and not your flowers, but maybe a daisy for.
Well, you're not stealing it from me. You're stealing it from SoCal. I already passed it along.
Yeah. Well, so sorry, SoCal. Right SoCal for Mish. I'm sorry. Anthony passed that on to you. It wasn't his to do. So it is what it is. So anyway, continue, Clayton.
No, I love it. I love it. And from a Michigan perspective, we were all there at Schembechler Hall on signing day for Sharon Moore's press conference, and he was in a pretty good mood. He was in as good of a mood as probably a person can be in. I mean, he signed the number one player in the country. He beat Ohio State. They're going to put the flag, by the way, that they planted at midfield in the museum right by the one from 2022 that they also planted after beating Ohio State in Columbus. So, yeah, it was kind of fun to see, Sharon Moore, after getting asked some tough questions, which were warranted all season long, be able to kind of have that moment a little bit. And of course, there's a ton of work to do for this program. They're not in the spot that they want to be in, but I think he seems confident about what the future holds. So we're going to get into that here with the offensive coordinator search with signing day. But before we do, we want to talk about our friends over at Prizepicks. It's the most fun way to watch sports. Prizepicks daily fantasy sports. You can win up to 100 times your money this football season. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. It's a great way to test your skills as a fan. It's simple and easy to play. You can make your picks in less than 20 seconds. I have made my picks for tonight. Jahmyr Gibbs, Detroit Lions running back, more than 70.5 rushing yards. It doesn't matter that he's posting all our plays on social media as Lions fans. He's still going to go off tonight. We're going to run it down Green Bay's throat. And our guy Jared Goff, more than 253.5 passing yards. What do you guys think about my picks there?
I like your picks. They're going to have to score a lot of points considering they're going to be playing their practice squad defense. Was there somebody else out that I missed? I saw the list was unbelievable. And
everyone's out.
Everyone's out. So there you have it.
Just say a name and we'll tell you.
Right.
Josh Pascal out.
Branch.
He's in. Thankfully.
Okay, well that's all that matters. So he can play 4 positions out there. But hey, beat these Green Bay Packers so we don't have to listen to Timmy B spout off on the message board, and I'll be happy. So, but I like your picks, Clay. I'm right there with you.
I'm on board with it. Go Lions. They're gonna they need one of those patented 50 burgers tonight because they don't have anything on defense. So kind of a bummer to use those up against the lowly Titans and Jaguars. But hey, I trust in Dan Campbell. Guess what? Know the plays. Guess what? We saw a couple years or last year, Penn State knew all of Michigan's plays. They were going to run it down their throat, and they couldn't stop it. And I expect that tonight from the Detroit Lions against the Green Bay Packers.
We don't make any excuses, man. Even our backups are going to be biting kneecaps, man. So don't feel sorry for us, man.
That's exactly right. It should be a fun one. So, yeah, get your picks in for that game. Conference championship games this weekend, college basketball, NBA, all that over at Prizepicks. And we have a special offer for you. Go to prizepicks.com or the Prizepicks app and use the code Wolverine to receive a guaranteed $50 once you play $5 in lineups. Again, prizepicks.com or the Prizepicks app. Use the code Wolverine to receive a guaranteed $50 once you play $5 in lineups. Sign up today. Get that $50 instantly when you play $5. In lineups, you don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed as long as you use the promo code Wolverine. It's Prizepicks daily fantasy sports made easy. On Tuesday, Michigan announced that Kurt Campbell will be relieved of his duties or has been relieved of his duties as offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. Spent 3 years with Michigan. One is an analyst, one is a quarterbacks coach last year, and then OC quarterbacks coach this season. And look, you finish 111th in scoring offense, 128th in total offense, 130th in passing offense, 69th in rushing. It's not a surprise that a move was made here. I think a lot of us expected this to happen over the last several weeks. Michigan just lost a ton from last year's team on offense, but also did not play up to its standard. You started 3 different quarterbacks. It was kind of a mess at times. And you know, as Sharon Moore put it yesterday, he said he had to make a move. I mean, you don't have to do anything, but it felt like that was kind of going to be inevitable. Kirk Campbell was great dealing with us. I appreciate him for, you know, everything he put into this. You know, I think you can appreciate that, what he did with JJ McCarthy, who loves him, but Sharon Moore will be looking for a new OC.
Yeah, and I'm going to stop short of calling him a sacrificial lamb because when, like you said, the numbers are the numbers, right? But man, did he have his back was against the wall. That offensive line didn't play well enough, number one. And it is hard to devise a game plan when even your really good play calls, and our Mr. Shark and not Tom documented this weekly in their breakdowns or analysis. He called some really good plays where you've got offensive linemen that don't know what the hell they're doing or are going the wrong direction or aren't holding their blocks, plays that should have worked. That's not on him. You've got receivers that are dropping balls. You've got quarterbacks that are throwing picks at a ridiculous rate. And again, I'm not blaming that completely on Davis Warren or anybody else. I'm just saying that's just the fact of the matter. Davis Warren hasn't played a lot of football. He was the best quarterback that Michigan had this year by far. And it was given the offensive line that he had to work with and the receiver room, he did the best he could, but no, he wasn't good either. And I don't think I'm being mean or rude saying that. I think it's just pretty obvious based on the numbers. But all things considered, when you put up those numbers, unless you exceed expectations, you're going to be the guy that goes. So I have nothing but good things to say about Kirk Campbell. He was always great with us in the media, and when he was put up, and facing the fire in press conferences, he answered every question honestly. He was down to earth. He was a class act, and wherever he ends up, I'm thinking it'll be the NFL. I think he's going to land on his feet. So we'll be watching him. I'll be rooting for him, just like I do every other Michigan coach that leaves this program and has contributed. And what I will remember about him is what he did with JJ McCarthy and Team 145 and helping lead them to a national championship. He was a huge part of that.
Yeah, a lot of it last year, natural progression for a guy like JJ McCarthy, just being as talented as he was. But, you know, you don't make those steps without a steady hand leading your room. And I think Kirk Campbell did an outstanding job. And that was kind of his wheelhouse. And remember this guy, too. He was someone who Sharon Moore said it either during the spring or sometime after he was hired, that the day after, or maybe it was even the same night they won the national championship, Kirk Campbell's in the building or wherever he was, watching film and breaking down film and kind of getting upset about the things that didn't go right. Like, it's a guy that, was always just busting his ass to the best of his ability. And listen, it's always been a business, but even more so now, this is a business at the college level. And the numbers are your resume. What you put on film is your resume. And Michigan should be better offensively than it was. I mean, you look at a passing offense that I think was 127 or 128 out of 134 teams in the Power Five. It's not good enough. And when you act and you make decisions with a lot of conviction, talk to him back at, it was either the Rose Bowl media day or national title media day, when you would ask him about the QB situation. You'd ask him if JJ McCarthy's successor was on the roster and if they felt good about it. He always said yes. And ultimately this quarterback room became, a manifestation of kind of what our worst fears would be. Davis Warren was a guy who can come in and run the offense and make some throws here and there, but he's on a good team of backup quarterback. Jack Tuttle was a 7th-year guy who hadn't been able really to catch on anywhere because of the injuries. And unfortunately, the injuries derailed his season here. Alex Orji is not a quarterback. Jaden Davis, maybe not as ready as you would think a recruit of his standing might be. So ultimately, that's, you have to wear that. And the quarterback situation for this team, and I know they had issues on the offensive line. I know they had issues at wide receiver, but what happened at quarterback this year, which was the room he led, had ripple effects on everything else. And because he's the coordinator, he wears that too. And, you wish him well moving forward, but unfortunately that's the nature of the business. And when you don't get results, you have to move on from good people sometimes. And that's simple. That's just how it is.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, and partly where I feel bad for Kirk Campbell is that, Sharon Moore made him the offensive coordinator after this year, after last season when he took the job. And if he would have left him on as quarterbacks coach, he might still be here as just quarterbacks coach. But, you get elevated, you get more responsibility. I mean, of course, there are perks that come with that, including, nearly $1 million. But, I thought he did a decent job, with the quarterbacks, JJ, Davis Warren, specifically. And, it's hard to say exactly when you don't have the level of talent that you would want in that room, but they'll find somebody to fill both roles. Steve Kasula, tight ends coach, will call the plays for Michigan's bowl game as Sharon Moore conducts a national search for Kirk Campbell's replacement. What do you guys want to see, or what do you think Michigan should look for in a replacement for Kirk Campbell?
Somebody who's had great success at the highest level with a dual threat quarterback and makes an offense better no matter who is on the field, being able to scheme things around your weaknesses. And I look at, obviously we all point to Ben Johnson in the NFL and how elite he is, right?
Just go get him.
That's what I said. Don't mess around here. And if they don't, that's a failure on Sharon. No, I'm just kidding. That's obviously not true.
They'll have Andrew Babalola throwing passes by the end of the season.
Yeah, or catching. If he reports correctly, which, damn it, they did last year against the Cowboys and they got screwed. Don't get me started. But to me, that's what you need. There cannot be any more experiments, right? As Jim Hackett once said about the Michigan's head coaching job, we had Rich Rodriguez, we had Brady Hoke. We're done experimenting. We're going to get the best of the best. This is Michigan, and you don't hand the keys of a Ferrari to a guy who's been driving a Volkswagen, right? And say, well, let's see how you do with this one, kid. So go find somebody good who's got experience doing it, has had great success doing it, not a flash in the pan, not somebody that, say, 5 years ago had a really great quarterback and excelled, and then the rest of the time sucked, right? Go get somebody that is proven and that can do it. And it's up to them to find it. So everyone's asking me, who's it going to be? Who's going to be? I like Jason Candle from Toledo. I think he's had some success there. Everybody points to bad things that every coach is going to have something on his resume that's not perfect, right? But there are coaches out there who have had proven success that you can find. That is your job to do.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, you kind of view it through the lens that Sharon Moore said he would view it through, and that they want a guy that can be balanced. Listen, Michigan's never going to abandon the run game. Like Bryce Underwood's not, whenever it's his time to play, he's not going to throw the ball 50 times and they're going to run it 12 times. I will see where the run pass ratio is at because you have that weapon now, but you want a guy that has proved he can build an offense around those type of players, attract that type of talent, scheme things up too. I think that the personnel that Michigan had, was better than the numbers would indicate. Not that it was great, not that it had a chance to be elite, but I think that you could have done more this year with guys like Tyler Morris, who's in the transfer portal, Samaj Morgan, obviously the tight ends that you have. So you need creativity, you need balance. I used to be the guy that, I go back to when Jim Harbaugh flipped over his staff after the COVID season, and you're looking for a defensive coordinator, and all these names are out there like, oh, you got to get a guy like Will Muschamp and Derek Mason and all these big names. And no, you just find the best guy that can teach the game that fits these current players. Mike McDonald was that guy, and lo and behold, he's an NFL head coach right now. So to me, I it's hard to kind of put it in a bottle like that. I think that when you have a Bryce Underwood, when you have the sort of NIL backing that it looks like Michigan has now, this is an extremely appealing job because you're going to get yourself, 2 to 3 years of the number one recruit in the country. And if you're an up and coming guy, like I know Joe Craddock's name from Tulane has come up, you hit with a guy like that, you might be a head coach in 3 or 4 years. So I think it's exciting to know what the possibilities could be. Sharon says he's going to run a national search. I'm all for that. Turn over every stone, make some phone calls to your former boss, get some input. But at the end of the day, You want to build this offense around what you want to be and what's going to make Bryce Underwood, and hopefully the next Bryce Underwood, whoever that might be after him, make this an appealing place that not only guys like that want to come play, but some of these top skill players too. And, so be what you want to be. Don't try to be what you've been in the past. I think that to a certain extent, Michigan fell into that trap a bit this year. Excited to see what he does. Because remember, I mean, this was basically a situation where, Sherrone Moore's the head coach, but this was almost kind of like an interim sort of staff that he had to put together because he was hired, just before February, after the hiring cycle, portal cycle, all of that. So I'm excited to see what the possibilities might be because there's no reason they can't go out and get his number one target if whoever that might be.
And I will say this, guys, I fully expect whoever it is, people to be bitching about it the way they bitched about Jesse Minter. And look what he did at Vandy, blah, 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 when Jim Harbaugh brought him in here and nitpicking. But you're right. It can't be, hey, I'm going to go get Byron Leftwich because he's a big name, because he coached Tom Brady 3 years ago and he's been out of the game since or something like that. That would be foolish. So here's hoping they make the right hire, not the hire that's going to win the press conference.
So, Anthony, you do think national search is a good thing, not regional or anything like that?
I do. I search the world. There might be some guy coaching 7-on-7 in Japan that might be the best guy for the job. Find him.
Zimbabwe.
He's already been eliminated. It's a national search. Sorry.
All right, smart ass. What's the next question? Next topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is going to test Sherrone Moore's network. This is you do have the ideal timing here, right? You made a move 3 days after the final regular season game. This is when the carousel is starting to heat up. You're seeing other schools fire coordinators, make hires as well to their assistant coaching staffs. We've already seen a couple offensive coordinator hires around the country this cycle. So the timing's there. Who can you go out and get? And you hope it is obviously the right guy for the job, no matter who it is. But I would like to see someone with experience. I think that, when you had a first-time head coach and you paired him with somebody who doesn't have coordinator experience at the Power 4 level and really limited coordinator experience overall. I guess Kirk Campbell did it at a lower level for quite some time early on in his career. But at this level, I think that was kind of a dicey, situation. It was a little bit of a risk. And, so I think experience would be big, but, calling plays, coordinating an offense, that sort of thing. And we'll see. He did say, Chris, you asked him yesterday if there are more staff changes coming. He said, we'll see something to that effect. He said, not right now, though. So I would imagine for the bowl game, maybe they're set. And of course, there'll still be moves in, after that potentially. And maybe there still will be this month as he continues to evaluate. But I think he wanted to get that one done so he could start looking right away and have every possible advantage, which then puts the pressure on you to, hey, go get somebody very good for this job.
Can I make one final point on that too? If you hire a guy with experience or a guy that's been a head coach, that kind of expands your network too. And, he starts to have input on the guys that he knows are, qualified to do maybe some of the things you want to do. So
great point.
I'm with you at the end of the day. You put a gun to my head. I think experience and kind of gravitas is a huge thing for them.
Yeah.
But not,
and that qualifies at position coaches too. If guys aren't getting the job done, is he going to be a guy that looks to his friends and says, we need an upgrade here? And I hope you understand, right? Now he did it with Kirk Campbell. To me, that's not the only place they need to upgrade. And I'll stop short there, but they need to be better at different positions as well.
No doubt. So we'll keep monitoring that as December plays out and we see as they get closer to the bowl game and then after the bowl game as well, what kind of moves could be made. Let's talk about signing day. Michigan finishes with the number 6 class in the country. We'll talk about that after we discuss our friends over at Gametime, the exclusive ticketing partner of the Wolverine podcast. It's the easiest way to get tickets to the biggest games, concerts, or shows. And you could get in tonight to the Lions game using Gametime as well. Check out the app or the website. You can see photos of what your view would look like if you're going to purchase those tickets. You could have got in and witnessed an incredible game in Columbus last weekend. You can go to Michigan basketball's game on Saturday against Iowa, 2 p.m. at Chrysler Center using Gametime. And you can use the promo code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code ON3. That's ON in the numeral 3 for $20 off. Terms apply. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Signing day in the books for Michigan. They still have Andrew Olish on Friday, who is currently committed to Michigan. He's going to make his final decision. Seems like Oregon's still in the mix for that.
Tight end out of
tight end out of Pennsylvania.
There you go.
4-star guy. So we'll see what kind of decision he makes. His current commitment factors into Michigan's number 6 ranking nationally, but either way, looks like they'll have a top 10 class, and they could still do some damage in the late signing period that could boost them into the top 5. But right now they're behind number 1 Texas, number 2 Alabama, number 3 Oregon, number 4 Georgia, and number 5 Ohio State. So third in the Big Ten. 2 5-stars, 14 4-stars, 7 3-stars, 9 of them in the top 100 of either the On3 industry rankings or On3's rankings, led by, of course, the crown jewel of the class, the number 1 overall recruit. First time Michigan has signed the number 1 overall recruit since Rashawn Gary. That is quarterback Bryce Underwood out of Belleville. I was out at his ceremony last night. There, him and Elijah Dotson, his teammate, had the buffs on already.
Nice.
They were ready to go.
Hopefully not turnover buffs for Bryce.
They're just buffs. Yeah, that's a good point. They were legit too. They were legit Cartiers. I think Elijah, I'm not exactly sure. I think they were too, but I was taking a close look at Bryce's. I was like, hey, those probably cost a cool $1,200 right there from Cartier, but the Cardi boys, as Gus Johnson would call them. But a great signing class. Michigan did a great job, I think, creating momentum with NIL, getting the message out there that, hey, we do have some money here that you can make if you come to Michigan, just like all these other schools are doing. Everyone's making money. Some are going to make more than others. You might as well be competitive in this space if you're Michigan. Revenue sharing likely coming as well next fall. Chris, you had Sean McGee, Michigan's general manager, on the podcast yesterday. I recommend everybody go check that out on either the YouTube or the podcast feed. But just the vision that they had, the way they've executed it, more importantly, to get their ducks in a row when it comes to NIL, to manage this roster, cut down on the size, which is unfortunate. I think for some of the guys that are on the team, they're going to have to move on, and in some decisions even you have to make in recruiting in the portal. But they're executing this at a pretty high level, and you're seeing them recruit kind of in the area that they should. Top 5, top 10. I think, maybe not the expectation every year because other teams are going to do the same thing, but they should be, kind of in that average, I think, in terms of where they end up in the rankings because of the resources that they have, the staff that they have, and everything that Michigan has to offer.
And I said, on the message board yesterday, I said, it feels like old times back in the Drew Henson days and when Lloyd Carr was recruiting at an extremely high level. And we went to Lamar Woodley's press conference and they stole him away from Michigan State. And when we went to Chad Henne's press conference in Penn State, their fans were just absolutely crushed. Their coaches were too. They still thought they had Chad Henne on signing day, but there's no way that we're driving out to, Eastern Pennsylvania through the night, through the mountains, if we didn't know that Chad Henne was coming to Michigan. So, but you guys did one hell of a job covering it. And as for Sean McGee, I believe producer Megan said it was the best podcast she's ever done and been a part of. May or may not be true until this one, but and that was all him, man. All I had to do was ask the questions, and he's such a down to earth guy and a good guy and such a hard worker. And the couple things that stood out to me where we confirmed, the phone started ringing off the hook after Bryce Underwood signed, and they get all these people calling about not just the money, but about the opportunity at Michigan. But transformational and transactional kind of helps, fellas, right? Let's not make any bones about it. And Sean McGee has done a fantastic job as general manager. I asked Sharon Moore about that last month, and he said he's all over it in terms of roster composition, and it's a tough job. But Sean McGee is a great representative of the program, first class guy, and having him on there to answer the questions was great. I hope people will go watch it and listen to what he had to say. So I thought he was all over it. So it just makes you confident that Sharon Moore is surrounding himself with good people that are going to help him succeed here. Obviously, Sean McGee was here with Jim Harbaugh as well, a Navy guy, a military guy. I have great respect for that as well. So it was fun to talk to him, and we really appreciated having him on.
Yeah, on the transactional front, I think it was, you'll appreciate this, Chris. I think it was David Lee Roth who said, money might not be able to buy happiness, but it can buy you a speedboat that you can pull up right alongside it. And Michigan's got a hell of a speedboat right now when you land
Yes.
you land the number one overall recruit. And I'll listen, that we've been, I know there's a lot of fanfare, there's a lot of excitement around the recruiting process and signing day, but these are ping pong balls. These are scratch offs. These are lotto tickets. Now, you recruit more of these 4 and 5 star players, you have higher odds of paying out when you keep stacking those types of guys. And so nothing is guaranteed. Now, I'd argue when you have the number one overall recruit at the most important position on the field, and a lot of people think he's the best, 1-1 quarterback that there's been since Trevor Lawrence came out. I just think his floor is incredibly high where it is. But more so than that, when you click on the commits tab or the commits page over at On3, and you see the industry ranking and you look at how this class lines up, your top 3 commits are the number 1 quarterback in the country, a 5-star offensive tackle, and a top 60 defensive lineman in Nate Marshall, who they were able to flip earlier this week. And I think the recipe for Michigan is as simple as that. You have a great quarterback, you build up in the trenches, and then everything else kind of falls into place from there. And they did an outstanding job. I know that the Underwood it seemed like around Halloween was when the Underwood kind of buzz started to become public. But, you listen to Sharon Moore, this is a guy that they've been talking to for a long time. And really, I think it was the Wall Street Journal that did a story this week saying that pursuit really kind of picked up after the Texas game, where we talked about it at the time. Like, when you meet that caliber of a team on the field coming off of, just as a litmus test for what you are as a program, it's kind of eye-opening in terms of, okay, we need to get to this level and bring in these types of players and stack those types of classes to compete, because that's what Texas has done. That's what, Alabama, Georgia, all these schools have been doing for years. And you just keep working at it. And, there's always this narrative that, we have to be a good recruiter. You have to do this. Recruiting is just building relationships. And if we've learned anything about Sharon Moore and his staff, they do an outstanding job relating to these kids, getting them to buy into what they're selling. And, when there is a talent deficit, like we saw on the field this year, those kids fought to the very end and stuck together, and then wound up scoring the biggest upset of the college football season, and one of the bigger upsets ever in this rivalry. So that's, I think, the wide angle lens on how I see it. Now, who's going to do what, who starts right away, who's a star in a couple of years, that will all sort itself out on the field. But I just think Sharon Moore, Sean McGee, his staff, the recruiting staff, the graphics they were sending out on social media were amazing. The comic book kind of hero, custom graphics for each player. I thought they knocked it out of the park. And now you sit here, you hope that Andrew Olish signs, but Sharon Moore said there could be more on the way too. And you sit here with the number 6 class in the country, you're just 0.06 behind Ohio State in terms of average commit rating in your class. There's a chance they could move up into that top 5 if they're able to land some of these guys like a Ty Haywood late in the process. So, I mean, it's an incredibly exciting time to follow recruiting, and pretty fun time to see the type of work these guys have put in.
Yeah, no doubt. As far as this group, who impacts early outside of potentially Bryce Underwood? Of course, we've talked about him in the past. He could come in and compete for the job right away. I asked Sharon Moore yesterday, could you still bring in a transfer quarterback along with that? He said it's something we've talked about, and it's something we expect that they will do as well. And if you keep Davis Warren around, you got some veterans potentially to kind of be there and help him out. But I think he's going to play a role, I think, in his first year. But besides him, who do you guys think will have an impact for Michigan potentially as a freshman there.
Yeah, Shamari Earls, right? So he'd be the guy that I would pick. And I want to say something too about Davis Warren. Anybody who's sitting there ripping on this kid can just shut the hell up right now. Okay. Everybody's sitting there. They won in spite of him. He didn't do anything. He almost cost them the game, so on and so forth. No, it doesn't work that way. And no, he didn't have his best game. He had a couple of picks, but he also made some big throws in Columbus. And you know what, Michigan. He did something that Tom Brady didn't do. He did something that Denard Robinson did. Chad Henne didn't do, and he won down there. So everybody can just shut up about him. To me, he'll always have a special place in our hearts. So, but Shamari Earls is the guy. They're going to need help at corner right away, and it's the rare corner, right, that comes in and helps. But to me, I think he is a guy that can do that, and that's going to have to do that. And I think he expects to do that. And that excites me when you get a guy like that has those skills when you're 6'2", 205, and you're physically ready to come in and play. Then he's the guy that's on my list.
I think for me, it's Babalola, only because we know the offensive line, how much work it needs. And I think even if they bring in a couple guys in the portal, like they're going to just be younger there, especially at the tackle spots. And he's one of the, I think Sharon said they have 15 or 16 guys they're looking at enrolling early. He's going to be one of them. Bryce Underwood will be one of them. He said he has a chance to be as good as any offensive lineman that's ever played at Michigan. And, you know, if you want to question Sharon Moore on things, that's fine. But I don't question his eye for talent when it comes to the offensive line. And Babalola, I mean, he's already, up around 300 pounds. I think they could probably play him pretty early on and get away with it. Whether he, I think there might be some versatility there if they kick him inside. But certainly I think he's going to be in the mix to start at one of the tackle spots. And, they're going to need that one to pan out because you got to keep your 5-star number 1 overall recruit healthy and upright as well. So it's going to be fun watching both of those guys grow, but I'll be looking at him in the trenches.
Yeah, that would be interesting. First time in a while, true freshman starter on the offensive line, but 5-star out of Kansas. Sharon Moore wasn't a 5-star, but he was out of Kansas. So those two able to build a really good relationship. Huge pickup there. I would go with Shamari Earls as well, the 4-star corner, number 32 player in the country, because of positional need as well. And because our EJ Holland, who covers recruiting for us over at the Wolverine.com, says he reminds him a little bit of Will Johnson, except faster. I don't think he's saying he's better overall, but in terms of skill set, and then he's got more speed. Sign me up for that. It's hard to play corner right away, so maybe it's halfway through the year, but if it clicks for him at some point next season, I think that'd be big. And I think corner, another need I would put up there for the transfer portal. But anything else on this signing class that you guys wanted to hit on?
Nope. I'm just excited that we've got great classes to talk about again and great players to come in here and hopefully, and I asked Sean McGee about this as well. I said, you're not just recruiting from lists. And he said, absolutely not. They've got to fit the culture too. So they've got to be great culture fits. It's up to Sharon Moore to mix it all together and make sure it works. And I'm confident that they have assessed the character of these guys coming in as well.
No further thoughts from me. I think there are a lot of good kids in this class. Owusu Boateng is a guy I'm really excited for. Seems like a passionate guy. Seems like a future green dot guy in the middle of that defense. So excited for him as well. But like what they did here, it's hard to not like what they did. And now you have a chance to go augment all this influx of talent via the portal, and those possibilities are exciting too.
Explain green dot for those old guys that might not know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so with the helmet communication now, instead of everyone standing on the sidelines looking like the Teletubbies in different colors, signaling stuff into their players, the guy that wears the green dot, has that helmet communication, is kind of like the leader of that defense. So that's what that means.
And there you go. That's for all you old guys. What's so funny?
Exactly.
Continue.
Oh, it seemed like someone here might wanted to know. Hey, Nathaniel Owusu Boateng, the way he's talking, he thinks he's starting next year. So we'll see about that. We'll see if Ernie and Jay Sean come back. He sounded like he was saying that linebacker was one of the problems this year, and he wants to fix it. I think Ernie and Jay Sean may have something to say about that if they come back. Which
but I like that in the pilot. to quote an all-time great
You know,
movie.
you got to like the confidence. You got to like the
Mhm.
confidence.
You said the old guys needed the refresher. Just
I have no idea what you're talking about. So,
okay.
that's from Top Gun, the original. It came out like 10 years after I was born, but I went back and watched it. So anyway,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah.
There you go. Let's move on to basketball and then wrap up with our picks. Next segment presented by 5-Star Fans. The thrill, the heartbreak, the pride. Being a fan is a wild ride. I saw it all too closely. Down in Columbus, it was a wild ride for some of those fans last weekend. With 5-Star Fans, though, you can finally get in the game. You could get close enough to get pepper sprayed by the cops if you use 5-Star Fans.
What a
It is
pitch.
the place where fiercely loyal fans can directly reward their favorite players for a limited time. 5-Star Fans is giving you $5 to send to your favorite player. Visit 5-starfans.com. That's 5-starfans.com today. They're going to give you that $5 to send to your favorite player. Recruits, again, you can get in the game with 5-Star Fans. Michigan 67, number 11 Wisconsin 64. An incredible win for Dusty May to start off his Big Ten season, first Big Ten win for the first-year head coach. And a lot did not go right. A lot went wrong, in fact, for Michigan in this game. They shoot 21% from the field in the first half. They didn't make a field goal in the final 7 minutes and 42 seconds of the first half, but they played great defense throughout. Defense travels. They held Wisconsin in that first half to 32%. You shoot 21%, you're only down 6 at the break. I think that is really key. And then your big guys just turn it on and really just continue to play well offensively in the second half. Danny Wolf was incredible. 20 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 blocks, and 3 steals. And then Vlad Golden goes off for 24. He had 6 dunks in this game. That's Mad Vlad that they keep talking about. But, I mean, so much to unpack. But the first thing is that this is incredible to do this at Wisconsin. They're not Wisconsin under Bo Ryan, but they were 8-0 coming in. And Michigan has won there now 3 times in the last 15-plus years with fans in the stands. They won in 21, but there were no fans. But 2014, 2018, and Tuesday night. It's pretty incredible.
If the great John Beeline has a trouble winning there, then it's a tough place to win. So, and Greg Gard has a very good basketball team this year. This is not some dog team, and I see rivals trying to explain it away. Oh, Wisconsin and Michigan both look like crap. These are 2 very good basketball teams, and to beat number 11 on their home floor, I think they were number 11 if I'm not mistaken, is damn impressive. Danny Wolf looks like a pro, and it was good to see Vlad get mad. Right, Vlad Golden, 24 points, jamming it at the rim. Missed a couple bunnies, but I'm not going to complain when you've got a guy like that putting that kind of effort out there. It was amazing because I asked Dusty May before the game at the press conference. You guys will remember what he likes most about that combination, because a lot of people too were saying, and there were questions, what can these 2 guys, big guys, play together? He says they're getting more comfortable with each other. I like the direction it's going, and watch for them in the pick and roll. And guess what they beat the crap out of them with was the big man pick and roll. Danny Wolf is a stud. When he's playing like that, Michigan's going to be really, really hard to beat, even when the guards provide almost nothing. Trey Donaldson had his worst game in a Michigan uniform. Roddy Gale was getting beat on the boards. He contributed a couple of things. He also missed a couple front ends of one-on-ones, which is uncharacteristic for him. But I thought it was very interesting that Dusty May, in his post-game locker room speech to the team, said we didn't play very well. And I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but that really caught my eye, where he said, hey, we can do better. And you come out of Wisconsin with a 67-64 win. So huge win for Michigan. Excited for this basketball team. Excited for the really the direction of both major programs and hockey too, if we're being honest, going forward. So it was really fun to watch.
I think the thing for me is that you watch and you go on social media, you go in our game threads, and a guy like Roddy Gale doesn't have a great game. And then because he's so new, people fixate on this idea that he's not a great player. Or, we've seen it with Vlad Golden. And I've never been stressed about how Vlad's played, because he was a 16-7 guy last year in a pretty good conference. I think what strikes me about a win like what we saw the other day, piggybacking off of what we saw them do in 2 games in Fort Myers, is that, there's going to be a game And maybe that Xavier game was the example of it, where when all of these pieces are clicking, they are going to blow teams out of the gym. But their C plus game, their B minus, their B game, I think is going to be good enough to beat a lot of really good basketball teams because they have a lot of good players. And to come out and kind of put, this was, if you believe, KenPom and the way that they rank teams, this is kind of by far the best team that they've played to this point. In Wisconsin, you go up to their place, and it was a slugfest. It was one of those classic sort of Big Ten kind of games, and that's where I like. We talked about how last week's Virginia Tech game sort of, you get in a hole early, you have to defend your way out of it. It was similar at Wisconsin, and I had full confidence they'd be able to do that because now we've seen them do it against a quality team. That's the benefit of not playing all of your non-conference games against East Green Bay State or North Carolina School for the Blind. And you have a great coaching staff too. So they've gathered all this feedback and they've kind of channeled it into kind of this mentality, this attitude that they're never out of any single game. And they have enough guys to make you plays. And they have a number of guys that could step up and score 20 on a given night and lead you to a victory. And that's what the teams that play into, the Elite Eight, Final Four, national title game, those are the traits that they have. And I'm incredibly encouraged by what I've seen so far. And you look at their resume to this point, 7-1, your one loss is to what looks like a decent Wake Forest team on a neutral floor by a basket, simply because you couldn't, stay away from a wet spot on the floor. I'm incredibly impressed, and a couple tough ones coming up, but that's one of the biggest wins I've ever seen Michigan basketball go and get.
Baby-faced assassin. I'm looking at his picture here for those who are listening, and just like Clayton Safey on the beat, man, these guys look young and they will just destroy you.
I will say the Wake loss is looking worse and worse, but it's one loss, and you got the one at Wisconsin. I'd much rather have a Big Ten win on the road, and it's showing that this team is improving. And as much as the Xavier game showed Michigan's ceiling as a team, so does a game where you don't play your best. You miss 3 front ends of 1-1, including 2 in the final 6 seconds. You allow a bunch of offensive rebounds, and you also miss a bunch of shots. You only hit 6 threes. But you can play this type of defense that we're showing on the screen right now. That's Wisconsin's shot chart. Whole lot of blue on there. Red's the makes, blue's the misses. And you get a bunch of blocks. You play great defense. And you're still able to win on the road. If you're going to win 6 games in a row, like we all know at some point, hopefully the last 6, some college basketball team's going to do in the season, it's not always going to go well. Think back to 2018, the Sweet 16 against Texas A&M. Michigan goes off. They hit 1,000,000 threes. C.J. Barrett hit a couple, at least one, at the Staples Center there. Then the next games against Florida State, they couldn't really hit a shot. There were like 1,000,000 shots that felt like they could have been daggers for Michigan, but they didn't go, and they still were able to defend and win the game. 2 completely different styles of play, but they were 2 wins that got them to the Final Four. Same thing's going to have to happen where you have the Xavier game, then you have the Wisconsin game. You win both. They looked completely different. So I think that's important for Michigan. They got Iowa on Saturday at Chrysler. Iowa survived a wild game against Northwestern on Tuesday just before the Michigan game started. Looked like they were dead. Hit a buzzer beater inbound with 0.8 to go. So we'll see how Michigan continues this on Saturday. But, heavily favored, I think. 8 on KenPom right now. So could be another nice Big Ten win to start off 2-0 in conference play. Let's move on and finish off with No Man Knows the Future. We'll pick 4 conference championship games this weekend, all Power 4. The Mountain West game, UNLV Boise, is for a playoff spot, so that one will be fun on Friday night as well. But all 4 of these games we're about to pick are on Saturday. We'll start with the noon game, Iowa State against Arizona State in Dallas. Arizona State, 2-point favorite. Over-under is 49.5. I'm going Sun Devils, for some reasons.
Yeah, me too. Probably for those same reasons. I like the trident plant, just like Dusty May was talking about at our press conference. We were talking about which flag, his thoughts on flag planting. We got him away from the podium before he asked.
Yeah.
He said, I thought he would say, I'm not commenting on that. And then he says, man, that trident plant was pretty sweet. So let's go to Arizona State. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm going 3 for 3 just because I think Kenny Dillingham's a killer. And that has nothing to do with the guy on the other sideline, which is what I think you two are hinting at. So,
yeah,
no, I'm not. Clayton just doesn't like him because everybody else liked him when he was being mentioned as a potential replacement for Jim Harbaugh. But
no, not a potential replacement, a potential upgrade, not a potential upgrade.
Upgrade. Okay, that's absurd. Yeah, but he's a good football coach. But I do think that Arizona State's going to win this football game.
My mom also went to Arizona State, so that's one of the reasons.
Well, there you go.
Oh, right on.
Take him. It is crazy. Arizona State could come in and win the Big 12. Texas could win the SEC. Oregon could win the Big 10. And SMU could win the ACC. All new teams of their conferences. So super weird. And that leads us to Georgia against Texas, a rematch between the two teams. Georgia won in Austin earlier this year, but Texas 2.5-point favorite, over under 49.5 in Atlanta. I'm going Georgia. They might just have their number, although I'm not impressed by Carson Beck or Georgia, and they really could have lost that game to Tech last weekend.
And they seem to match up well with them, I think, if you look at the first game and in Athens or in Atlanta, rather, in Georgia, right? So I like Georgia as well.
I'm going to go with Texas. I believe in Sark. I just don't like Georgia turning it on and turning it off. But when they turn it on, I mean, they're as good as anyone.
For sure. Weird team. A lot of weird teams this year, honestly, towards the top of college football, including Penn State, who hasn't really beaten anyone, but they're sitting here pretty much in the college football playoff. They're going to take on Oregon. Oregon only a 3.5-point favorite. Over under 50.5 might have to do with probably be more Penn State fans there. Long travel for Oregon, although it hasn't seemed to affect them this season. 8 p.m. on Fox in this one. I've got the Ducks. I feel like Vegas is kind of setting a trap here, but I'm going to take the trap. I'm going to fall right into it and see if I can somehow get a win here.
Oregon by 13.
I agree. By 13.5 for betting purposes.
Yeah, that's like,
there you go.
Yeah. And I will say this: I don't trust James Franklin in any big game ever.
He did win the Big Ten championship once, but that was when the Big Ten West existed.
It's a complete fluke too.
Yeah, it really was. I can't believe they got there in 2016. Yeah. Clemson against SMU is our final game. We'll pick this one in Charlotte, 8:00 on ABC. SMU 2.5-point favorite, over under 55.5. This has the most consequence probably of any of the Power 4 conference championship games, because Clemson could steal a bid here with a win. I'm torn on this one, but I will go with Clemson to do that and cause a little bit of chaos, and that could force Alabama to miss the playoff.
Yep, I agree. The shine is off of Dabo and his phony. Everything about him is phony, but Dabo is going to find a way to pull out this win, and Clemson's going to beat SMU, not just cover.
I think SMU is going to win only because Dabo put some pretty funny sound bites out into the world this week when he said, "Hey, you know what? I think we were the first team ever to go to win a national title at 15-0. Maybe we'd be the first 3-loss team to ever win the national title. It won't matter if they're not getting in. SMU wins."
Yeah, I feel like you can't say that quote and win, so I'm questioning my pick now. But yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch some of these games this weekend. Of course, wish we were in Indy having a nice steak dinner on Friday night and a cigar, and then sleeping in. You got an 8:00 game the next day and against some Big Ten West opponent. But regardless, Michigan will be back at some point. I'm sure we'll see where that game
Remember
is.
This. Remember a couple years ago when it comes full circle, Lions hat, Lions talk, Lions prize picks. Dan Campbell, before the Packers game at Lambeau Field, said, if we're not going, neither are they. That's what Michigan did to Ohio State. And I'm just I'm so grateful for, forget the fortune of Michigan and their fans for a second. Think about the folks at Prime 47 at St. Elmo's that there won't be as many broken glasses. There won't be as many people hooting and hollering down there.
Not as many people ordering chicken fingers off the kids menu for the entire family,
Which I wouldn't blame them for that.
No, but
hey, you get good chicken fingers, a good dipping sauce. It's still hard to top that. I get it.
Hey, Chris and I, we went to St. Elmo's the night before the Indiana game, so we have one more St. Elmo's dinner in us this fall.
Amazing. Thank you, Attorney Blue. Norm, thank you for that. That was fantastic, and his buddies there. We had a great time.
We did. Shrimp cocktail opens up the sinuses. Exactly how you need it.
It does.
Well, that's our show for this week. We had a ton to get to. Busy week. Portal opens next week, so stay tuned with us over at thewolverine.com. Use the promo code UM1 for 2 months of premium access for just $1. Like the video if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel as well, and we will see everyone next week.